When painting or drawing, we are creating a static artwork. Yet, many artists manage to create the illusion of movement when you look at their artworks. In this tutorial, we'll look at 10 ways that you can also fool the viewer's eye into thinking that they can see movement in your artworks. The first thing to realize is that because we can't add actual movements to our artwork, we need to imply the movement. In other words, we will show the moving object in such a way that your brain only normally sees them like that when they are moving. If you can create this effect in your painting, it will look fabulously alive and you are guaranteed to get lots of wows and compliments. The first of these methods is to place the figure in a pose only normally seen when moving. In this painting, you know these horses are racing because of the way their feet are positioned. Their angle tells you they are running around a bend, and the pose of the jockeys also tell you that their horses are at full gallop. In other words, the pose has told us a lot of things. We know where these horses are running, in which direction they are running, and at what speed. In this artwork, we know the boy is jumping because of his pose. The balloons have been posed behind him, which tells you that he's jumping forward. And in this photograph, the pose of the little girls is only possible when they are jumping forward. So we automatically know that they are jumping forward, implying that movement in the picture. Here's an interesting movement illusion. Take a look at this photo. There's clearly nothing moving in the scene, yet you still get the sense of moving into the scene. The trick here is to use perspective repetition by repeating same or similar objects into the distance while applying perspective to those objects. As these similar objects get smaller due to perspective, it fools your brain into thinking it's moving forward. In this artwork, it is the repeating vertical lines making you feel like you are walking up the street. And in this photo, it is the perspective repetition of the dashed center lines, making you feel like you're busy taking the corner. Due to gravity, most things that are in the air are in motion, so when you see something in the air, your brain automatically assumes that it's in motion. Take a look at this graphic. All it is a series of teardrop shapes at various angles. Yet, when you look at them, you get a distinct sense of movement because your brain is telling you that there are balloons floating in the air. In other words, your brain has completed the illusion for you. Here the artist has used the airborne effect to create a very effective surreal artwork. Some things in nature never stop moving, like the sea. If you paint them, you automatically convey a sense of movement in your artwork. Here, the artist has used the perpetual motion effect along with an airborne object to create an artwork that is incredible movement. It isn't, however, just the sea that is perpetually moving. Here, you know that the person is moving because they are on an escalator. By looking at the direction of their feet, you even know that this person is going up. The next way to create the illusion of movement is to show the result of movement. An example of this would be the water ripples around these ducks. You know that the water ripples are there because the ducks are paddling their feet like crazy under the water. Yet you can't see their feet that are actually in motion. Another example is the dust that's been kicked up as these horses run past. The dust tells you it's the horses that are moving. And in this painting, the drops on the window imply that there's movement outside due to the rain. These tracks in the road are a result of movement, so also convey a sense of motion, even though the motion has already happened. Then there are a lot of things that move, that leave a trail behind or show up as vapor. Here you can tell the plane is flying because it's suspended in the air. You can, however, also tell what path the plane flew due to the trail that it has left. And the same thing goes for the wake of this boat. And in this painting, the smoke trail left by the train indicates the movement in the scene. You can also use this effect to show invisible movement like the movement of air. In this painting, The Birth of Venus by Botticelli, he indicated that the god of wind Zephyr is blowing her to shore using a vapor trail by his mouth. So here's a really interesting one, motion blur. Motion blur is something that happens when an object moves faster than your eye can see it. Although this technique was used hundreds of years ago already, as you can see from the 1655 painting of The Spinners by Diego Velázquez, it's only really become popular since the advent of cameras because they show up motion blur more often than our eyes show it to us, as you can see in this photo. You can create the illusion of movement in your artworks by adding this motion blur to any moving object. In this painting, you'll see that the white horses are not very defined, and that creates a motion blur effect around them. Because your brain blocks out motion blur when you look around you to prevent you from getting motion sickness, you'll ideally only use motion blur on secondary objects in your artworks. Here you can see how the central brown horse doesn't have a motion blur effect, and it's the most defined horse of the lot as well. And as a result, it becomes the focal point in this painting. And in this painting, the racing car is the focal point, so it's painted in full focus. But to indicate the speed of the car, the background and the foreground have been painted with a motion blur. Many objects' shape will distort when they move. So by painting this distortion, you create the illusion of movement. Here, we can tell that the central sail is moving because of its distorted shape. Other examples are hair blowing in the wind and grass bending because of the wind. Now, for some reason, our eyes like to follow a line, and we can use this effect to create the illusion of movement in our artworks. Here you can tell how the ribbon is moving because of the flowing lines that it creates. In this artwork, the artist has used lines to create a sense of movement despite the fact that there's no actual objects in the painting. In this landscape, the winding road also makes your eye meander into the scene, creating a sense of movement. The last illusion we will look at is called energy lines. This is when you use imaginary lines to indicate direction of movement in your artwork. You can think of these lines as imaginary motion blur lines, and they can be very effective in conveying the illusion of motion. These energy lines don't need to be in your face either. Here you can see how subtle the energy lines are, yet you can still sense the movement. I find that using energy lines is most effective when you use them creatively as part of the scene, as you can see in this artwork. In summary, I want you to look back over the previous photos and artworks. This time, look carefully at each of them, and you will notice that often more than one of the illusion techniques are at play. So bear this in mind when creating your artworks. The stronger the sense of motion you can create in the artwork, the more dramatic it will appear. Now for this lesson's challenge. Your challenge is to use 2 of the illusion methods to create an artwork which makes the viewer feel like the focal point of the artwork is moving. You'll get bonus points if you come up with something creative and outside the box for the focal point. Instructions on where to post your artwork are in the description below. Good luck. I look forward to seeing your artwork.